What a bonanza to have 3 NHL signings in the span of a single day in the third week of May. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. And yes, you heard that correctly. 3 NHL signings. Jack St. Ivany, no surprise here, was extended by 3 years by Kyle Dubas. I mean, do we even need to discuss this one? I thought he looked really impressive, and I don't think he came close to what could be his ceiling. That was just a general impression that I had of the kid. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. I'll file this one under no-brainer. Jonathan Gruden was signed for 2 years. Gruden, of course, made that really big impression late in the season in the victory against the Hurricanes. Massive hit that got everybody all revved up, but also just played generally well. He showed some of what I think the Penguins had been expecting from him throughout the season whenever he'd get called up, and didn't really get, and then all of a sudden one night it was just there. Now, I don't know that he got a contract based on one night, but it sure couldn't have hurt. And then there's a third signing. Philippe Kral is a 24-year-old defenseman. He's a native of Czechia, but he spent a lot of time in North America, and I'm sure not coincidentally, time in the Maple Leaf system while Dubas was there, and he spent the past season in Finland's top league. And in fact, he was with a team that's run by Jani Laukkanen. Remember him? Former Penguins defenseman? About, what would that be now? 15, 20 years ago? Really good, smooth player in his time. And this player profiles as being offensive in nature. He's a lefty, kind of like Laukkanen. Got some decent size, 6'2", 198, has some good mobility, has put up some points, actually played 2 NHL games in the 2022-23 season, those, of course, in Toronto. And let's just, for the fun of it, because none of these is going to be anything where you go, whoa, game-changing stuff, right? Although I really like St. Ivany being retained. And ask where this might be heading, or if there's a piece of the puzzle that's in place, since that's been a topic of conversation on this program for a while now, and Dubas really didn't give any meaningful hints in that regard at the season-ending press conference. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Dubas is, by the way, working with Canada. He's an assistant general manager of their team over in Czechia at the World Championships, and he's getting a good look at these types of players, the Kral type of players. So this could be nothing more than just confirming, hey, this guy, elevated his game. He did something else this past season. He had a plus 28 in the Finnish league, so maybe he shored up something on the back end. I don't know. Again, I'm looking at something that's broader here. I'm looking at what type of player for what position might Dubas be searching. And as much as I'd love to be able to pinpoint something really specific here and say, aha, see, here it is. He's going for skill. He's going for speed. He's going for youth. He's going for grit. He's going for guts. These don't do anything, certainly not toward what I'm trying to achieve here. But I do feel like constantly keeping this in mind as players continue to get added to the organizational roster, not just the Pittsburgh roster, there's going to keep being clues. There's going to be more and more of those clues. And the closest that I can come to those from this little trio is looking at both of the defensemen. I don't expect St. Ivany to be some big scorer in the NHL. In fact, I think if there's one separation between his game and John Marino's, a player that I've compared St. Ivany to often, it's going to be the offense. Now, I don't think Marino has lived up to his own offensive potential either, but I don't know that St. Ivany has that gear. I think he's going to be able to contribute, that he's got enough of a shot, he's got enough of a vision for the game that he can get pucks through to the net and maybe pick up some assists like that, even some goals, but you're not going to see him become some kind of points factory. Kral, I just don't know enough about, but again, the way he profiles is that he would be an offensive guy. And one of the things that I have talked about here is adding mobility to the defense, which isn't something that you'd be thinking of reflexively because you already have Erik Karlsson and Chris Letang. But it is one of the separators for me when I watch the current Stanley Cup playoffs and think of where the Penguins are, is that I do see teams that can move around on the back end a lot more freely than the Penguins can. And where Gruden is concerned, look, I don't know that you need to do some 100% transformation of your bottom six forwards. I don't know that you need to have two that are all offense and two that are all, blood and misery. But I do think you need one that's that. Gruden's not a big guy. Gruden's not going to, with all due apology to the one big check that he delivered in that Carolina game, he's not going to bowl a lot of people over. But he'll bring you something, as opposed to whatever you were getting from Noel Acciari and Matt Nieto and all that. You just can't do nothing. And in fact, they probably teach you this on the very first day of GM school. Whoever you have on your team, don't have them do nothing. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from John, who says, DK, Lars Eller got 73% defensive zone starts as the third-line center in 5-on-5 situations. If you want the next third-line center to score more, allocate more offensive zone and minutes to his line on nights where maybe the third line is outperforming the first or second line. Mike Sullivan will never do this, though. He only understands top two lines offense, bottom two lines defense. His model. Such rigidity, such stupidity. John, the easiest and fastest way to my heart is to share a positive thought about Eller. So you got off to a beautiful start with this cue. And I do share your stance there that Eller could have created more offensively had he been placed in more offense-friendly situations, including, as you're pointing out here, right off the draw. The obvious issue with that is, how do you adjust for the other guys? In other words, you say here on nights where the third line is outperforming the first or second lines. Okay, that's in a vacuum a fair point to bring up as it relates to coaching within the course of a moving game. But who are you then casting into that defensive role? Who are you doing that with? Are you doing it with Sidney Crosby? You could probably get away with that with Sid. He finished 9th in the Selke Trophy voting. That counts for something. He can defend. But now you're starting Sid at the wrong end of the rink. You know where I'm going here, right? Okay, so that's Gino. You're going to put Yevgeny Malkin into a defensive role because you feel like Eller and the third line could create more offense. Okay, so you just put Gino, who, by the way, didn't have a great year defensively, didn't have a great year on faceoffs. Still effective with the takeaway, he's been that his whole life, but not particularly great in his own end. So you want to get Eller going, you want to get some offense going, but you have Gino taking draws in his own end. Has to be somebody, right? Has to be somebody. Meaning it has to be one of your top two centers. And we're living in a world where I could make a pretty concrete case that Gino shouldn't even be playing center at this stage of career. However, going back to your original point, Eller is good. Anyone who wants to get a J1Q read on this show, start it off with Eller is good. And your own chances of getting on will be very good. I appreciate the question. I do. I appreciate the thought you put into that. I don't happen to see eye to eye with it. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we will do another one of these tomorrow.